All right, we're live.
All right. What is up, everybody? So welcome to the first episode of the Sweat the Bet podcast, brought to you by OddsJam.com. I'm your host, Andrew Kim, a.k.a. the Parlay Doc, if you follow me on Twitter. And here with me is my co-host, Matt Modi. So since this is our first episode of Sweat the Bet, we're going to just start off with some brief intros. So again, my name's Andrew Kim. I'm from the Chicago suburbs, so obviously I'm a huge Bulls and Bears fan. I've been sports betting for over 10 years now. I love betting on the NBA, the NFL, WTA women's tennis is my guilty pleasure. I don't know why, but I've just become obsessed with women's tennis over the years, betting on that, probably to the detriment of my bankroll at times. But that's a little bit about me, and I'm going to pass it off to Matt to introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you. So my name is Matt Modi. I'm a content producer and betting analyst for OddsJam. You can find me on Twitter, Matt_Modi_bets. I don't have a fun handle like Parlay Doc or anything like that. So I am a Philly sports fan, born and raised in DC area, but all my family's from Philly. So I just grew up in the life, was basically told if I didn't grow up a Philly sports fan, I'd have to sleep outside. So you know how Philly fans are. Mostly Sixers and Eagles, but when the Phillies get good, I'll ride that bandwagon. And I'm actually new to sports betting. I've been sports betting for a little over 2 years now, and it just became legal where I am in Virginia last year. So I've only been using the sports books for like a year, but been sports betting for about a little less than 2.5 years.
Cool. All right, so we'll jump right into it, guys. So basically, we're going to kick off every show with what we call the opening tip-off, where we kind of give some introductions of what we're doing and give some hot takes right at the beginning. So today, for those of you that just tuned in, we're going to be talking mainly about some of the NBA futures and the future landscape. We're going to talk about the number one seeds in the East and the West, and are they legit or are they fakers? We're going to talk about the NBA MVP race and talk about, is there any value at all in fading Joelle Embiid? We're going to talk Elam Endings and talking about whether we should adopt this in the regular season, the playoffs, beyond just the All-Star game. And then talking about Joelle Embiid and James Harden should we buy into the hype, yes or no? And so to kick this off, my opening tip-off comment is Joelle Embiid and James Harden right now, as we speak, they are the most lethal duo in the NBA. Pick and roll, pick and pop, pick your poison. They are unstoppable. That's what I'm selling, Matt. Are you buying that?
Well, as a Sixers fan, I made sure to wear my polo or my quarter zip on the first one. My opening tip-off is very similar. I'm incredibly jazzed about the Sixers. They're 3-0 since adding James Harden. Granted, they beat the Knicks twice and the Timberwolves once, so it's not like they've beaten anybody that great. But I looked up the stats with Embiid, Harden, and Maxey, who is the third star. With them on the floor, they are plus 61 in 68 minutes. So, and just incredibly, just they've been so good together. Just incredible success. So, just really, really had to highlight that for my opening tip.
Gotcha. So, sounds like you're buying what I'm selling today.
100%. Absolutely.
All right. Sounds good. So it sounds like we had similar opening tip-off comments for today, huh?
Yeah, it's funny how that works. They just beat the Knicks by like 16 last night, so I think it's just fresh in everyone's mind.
Yeah, no, they're looking sharp. So moving on, we're going to go into our next segment called Sweat or No Sweat, where each of us, every week, we're going to come in and bring a topic about whether we think this will come true, and it's going to be a sweat versus a no sweat type of scenario. So obviously, like I said, I'm from the Chicago area, so I want to bring some of the Chicago vibes and the Chicago excitement, just like you Philly fans have some excitement. So obviously, I'm excited about the Chicago Bulls. It's been a long time coming since the Bulls have been good. I'll put it as simply as that. But this year with DeMar DeRozan, obviously, we've had some injuries. We've been plagued with some injuries. We're missing Caruso. We're missing Lonzo Ball. So our defensive efficiency has gone down. But here's my comment for you. I want you to tell me, Matt, is this a sweat or a no sweat?
All right.
The Chicago Bulls will make it out of the first round of the playoffs. So if the rankings stay the way they are right now, the Bulls would play the Raptors, but the Nets are right behind them. So it's possible they're going to play the Raptors or the Nets if the Nets move up. So knowing that one of those two might be their opponents in the first round, The Chicago Bulls will make it out of the first round of the playoffs. Sweat or no sweat?
That is a good one. I'm going to go with no sweat, as you see on the screen here. The Bulls are actually one of the things I wanted to talk about as far as one of my points. I feel like they're the 2 seed right now, as you said. They're 2 games back from the Heat, I believe, or 1.5, something like that. And they've done that, without 2 of their best defenders in Lonzo Ball. And I don't need to tell you this, but Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso. So I feel like the fact that they've just kept on winning, missing those 2, I like it. They have the scorer. DeRozan's just been phenomenal. They have the really good defenders, on-ball defenders, off-ball defenders in Caruso and Lonzo Ball. I'm going no sweat. I like that one.
Gotcha. I think because I'm a paranoid Bulls fan and we've just been so miserable for so long, there's this lingering paranoia that Zach LaVine maybe just isn't as healthy as it seems. And I'm just worried that there's some lingering knee issues. But that's the one thing that's making me say I might be sweating a little bit. But I agree. I'm hoping this is the year they have a breakthrough and it's not just a fun regular season team, but they can make a little bit of a push. So I'm hoping you're right, man.
Yeah, it all just depends on matchups, to be honest. The East is so jumbled together. Depending on how the standings shake out, like you said, they could somehow end up playing the Nets in the first round. They could play the Bucks in the first round if both teams fall, but then they could play, like you said, the Raptors, the current matchup. I think they could beat the Raptors. The Cavs, who are, a plucky upstart team, I think they could beat the Cavs, who are currently the 5 seed. So I think it just depends on seeding, but yeah, I like that one. I'm going no sweat.
Got it. So what do you got for me?
Mine is Sixers related. So right now they're the 3 seed. My prediction, or sweat or no sweat, is I think that the Sixers will end as the number 2 seed in the East. So I think they'll jump 1 spot, but not to the 1 seed.
Oh man, I'm actually going to say no sweat. I think the Sixers, with the addition of Harden, I think they're going to make this push. My concern is that the Bulls you've seen they're vulnerable. Their defensive efficiency is down. Zach LaVine doesn't look 100%. How many games in a row can you ride DeMar? Apparently a lot of them. But at some point, you can't just simply outscore everybody, right? And I just think the way that the Sixers are playing, the momentum that they got, I can see that happening actually to the detriment of my own team. I would say, and I don't see anyone catching them at this point with the final push. So I'm gonna go with no sweat. I'm buying into that. So I say no sweat on the Sixers making a final push and moving up the rankings a bit.
I like it. I was close to putting them as the 1 seed, but I did a little bit of digging. So the Sixers currently have the 11th hardest schedule remaining. The Heat have an easier schedule. They have the 19th hardest schedule remaining. So strength of schedule, it favors the Heat. I looked at the teams behind them. Like right now, Milwaukee's right behind them, but they have the hardest schedule left in the NBA. And then the Celtics, who have been streaking since, they won 10 straight and then they lost 1, but they've been streaking. They have the 4th hardest. So I don't really see anybody behind the Sixers catching them. It's more so just, can they catch the Heat and the Bulls, which the Bulls I agree with. I think they can. They're 3-0 against the Bulls. They have the tiebreaker over them. So yeah, I like it. I'm glad we agree.
Sounds good. So that's going to be a running segment we got each week. And if you guys want, if you guys have any ideas we want to talk about, make sure you send it in to us. We'll have an email address for you at the end. So let's move on to the main segment of our show. So the main topics that we kind of teased earlier, the meat and potato segment of our show. So first off, we're going to kick it off talking about the remaining part of the regular season in the NBA. And we're going to take a look at the number 1 seeds in the West and the East. So are these current top seeds, are they legit, or are they just posers and fakers that are going to be awesome in the regular season and then just kind of fizzle out once you get to the playoffs? So we'll start off with the Western Conference. Right now, the top seed is the Phoenix Suns. We know they've been pretty dominant during the regular season. Right now, if you look at the odds, they might be off a little bit, but right now the Phoenix Suns, most sports books have them around plus 170 to win the Western Conference. So that was from FanDuel. So do you think the Phoenix Suns, are they legit, or are they just kind of regular season posers? I'll kick it off by saying, look, I know that Chris Paul, being out for basically most of the regular season is going to be a problem. But at the same time, you could look at this as a blessing in disguise. You can see right now, teams that they should beat, they're probably going to beat. We saw that yesterday. They took care of business even without Devin Booker.
Yep.
You have a pretty deep team, right? So I don't think, Paul missing the season, then kind of plugging back in right at the end of the regular season or right at the first round. I don't think chemistry will be too much of an issue. They got plenty of depth. They have the best plus minus differential. I think it's around 8 points of a plus minus differential, which is like at the top of the NBA. They're scoring like 113.7 points per game, opponents being held to 105.7. And this is in the NBA, right? Where scoring is, is just everyone's on a scoring spree. We're offensive minded, but they're holding opponents to about 105. I looked at their schedule. I'm projecting them even with Paul missing and just kind of going through. I gave them the kind of easy layup wins, the ones that are kind of the tougher teams. I know I just kind of chalk some of those up as losses. I think they're still going to reach like 63 wins right around there. And I think they are a pretty complete team. I mean, you look at their team rankings, they're pretty good offensively. They got good defensive rankings, rebounding rankings. I think they have the depth. They have the experience. They made, obviously, a deep push, almost got there last year. I think as long as Chris Paul, that's the X factor, he's actually healthy when he comes back, I think they're legit. I think it's hard to argue that they're not a legit team. So I'm going to say they're not fakers. They're a legit team. They're going to make a meaningful, deep run in the Western Conference playoffs. What about you?
I totally agree. If we had done this segment last year, I was out on both one seeds. The Jazz and the Sixers were the one seeds last year. I was not. I would have told you both of them were fakers, but I totally agree with you on the Phoenix Suns. I mean, they have a 7-game lead on the Warriors. They're 50-12. I feel like people just, since they made the finals last year, people are just kind of like, yeah, well, the Suns are good, but I feel like, and I mean, to be honest, both one seeds I think are being a little bit under discussed, but I totally agree with you. I mean, it doesn't scare me that, like you said, Chris Paul's out. They're a deep team. They're well coached. The Devin Booker, I think it'll be interesting to see how long he's out for, because he just got placed in the health and safety protocols. So, you said, they won without him. I think they'll be able to take care of the bad teams like they did. I guess that was last night. And yeah, I mean, they have the best point differential in the NBA. They have the best record in the NBA. They're like the best net rating in the NBA. They're just, everything about them is good. So I think they're legit. I mean, they just went to the finals. I think they're the betting favorites to come out of the East. Or the West. I think they're also betting favorites to win the title, which I think is totally fair. People will look to the path they got to the finals last year and say that, I mean, every team they played was missing someone, which is fair. But I think this team is awesome. They're well coached. They can beat you in so many ways. And I don't necessarily know like fully healthy Suns versus fully healthy Warriors if I would actually choose the Suns over them. But regardless, I think they're 100% legit. They could definitely have a path to winning the title, 100%.
Okay, sounds good. So let's move over to the East. And I'm going to have you kick us off for the Eastern Conference. So right now, as we speak, even though they had a total meltdown and mental fart and gave up that game last night to the Bucks at the last second, the Miami Heat currently sit at the top of the Eastern Conference. I think I was surprised. Maybe I misread it, but I could have sworn it said they're like plus 500 or so to stay atop of the Eastern Conference. But I'll take a look later. But so right now, the Miami Heat, as things stand, you tell me, you kick us off. Are they legit, or are they fakers, posers, just regular season top seeds that aren't going to make a push?
To answer your question, they are currently 4th to come out of the East. They are plus 475. So I am amazed at how under discussed the Heat are. They're the 1 seed. They just made the finals 2 years ago. I mean, everybody tries to diminish the bubble playoffs and all that stuff, which I'm not here to argue the merits of that, but they did. I mean, they just came off of a finals run. They're the 1 seed. And I looked it up. So all 3 of their stars, if you're like Jimmy, Lowry, and Bam, they've all missed significant time. Like Bam's missed 25 games. Jimmy's missed 19 games, and Lowry's missed 15. And they just kept winning. They're getting Oladipo back. I don't know how important that's going to be because we haven't seen him in years. So who knows?
Who knows exactly?
Who knows what he has left in the tank? But I'm surprised at how under discussed the Heat are, and then B, how little love they're getting in terms of like just the betting odds. So I don't know. I think they're legit. I mean, like in a series with them and the Sixers, I don't know who I would predict to win that one. I would be really, as a Sixers fan, that really scares me. Jimmy coming back to Philly.
Yeah, no, it's tough. And, for me, the only thing I'll add is just, I feel like once they get into the playoffs, right. And now it's playoff time. The Stars got to shine. I feel like, as weird as it sounds, cause he's like their star player, it's weird to call him an X factor, but I feel like the style of play of Jimmy Butler to me is going to be an X factor. And, this comes from me watching him from the Chicago Bulls days, coming up under Thibodeau's wings and his tutelage, and then seeing him go to the Heat. Is just in the past, I think we've seen him, take a role where he's content kind of being facilitator for like almost 3 quarters, right? And then kind of going into attack mode in that 4th quarter. And in the past, I think there was it's fine. I mean, he had to kind of be a jack of all trades, do everything. But now you got Lowry in the mix, right? Lowry, he's, if I'm not mistaken, he's somewhere around like 6-7 assists per game. So you got a facilitator now. You got him. Bam is a versatile big man. He's able to dish the rock, move things around. So it's like, I want to see Jimmy Butler just kind of be in attack mode. And I know that he has. He's like 3rd in the NBA in free throws attempted. I think, Giannis and Joelle, they're like 11 point something free throw attempts per game. Jimmy, I was surprised how high Jimmy was. I'll be honest. He was somewhere around, I think like 8 free throws a game. I'd like to see that number go up, actually. And that's me kind of being, obviously I'm not the guy on the court taking all the hits going to the foul line. So it's easy for me to say, but I'd want to see him kind of be in attack mode from like 1st quarter, not like I'm going to be content trying to get my teammates involved. It's like, you got Lowry to do that now. Now just be that attack mode guy, drive, dish it out for a 3-pointer, make good things happen, or get to the free throw line, even 11, 12, 13, 14 times. And I feel like if he can kind of stay in that aggressive mode, I think that really could be like that X factor to kind of just, dominate these teams, because they have a lot of depth. They got a lot of weapons. And I just want to see him be aggressive from 1st quarter all the way through the 4th, because you can't disappear. I know he had an off game yesterday. It's the regular season, but what was it? 6 points, 2 free throws, 6 points. You can't vanish like that, right? So you want to see him be aggressive. Even if your shooting is off that night, just attack the rim then and get to the free throw line consistently all game long. So I'm hoping to see that from the Heat, but I agree with you. I feel like it's hard to say they're not legit. So that's kind of my add on to that. So
yeah, I think with Jimmy, like you said, came up under the Tibbs tutelage. I think he's just conserving himself for the playoffs. I think he's really, he's not really that old in terms of age. I think he's like 29, 30, something like that, but he's probably 40 in terms of basketball years just because of how many heavy minutes Tibbs played him. That guy was just playing insane minutes with the Bulls when he came up. And then again, the year and a half with the Timberwolves, same thing. So I think a lot of that is just him conserving himself. Cause he took over. He was awesome in the playoffs, the bubble year. He was awesome in the playoffs for the Sixers the year before when they had him for that half a season. He was incredible. He ran the offense, especially in the 4th quarter. So, I have no doubt that in, the crunch time of a basketball game, Jimmy Butler, I'd say a lot, you can say what you want about him, but that dude's got balls.
No, and that's why I regretted it when the Bulls let go of him like that. Cause you want that guy.
Oh, I love that.
With that aggressive killer instinct. Right. So I'm hoping we see him do that all 4 quarters in the playoffs and make it a fun playoff series to watch. So
yeah, as a Sixers fan, the Heat I would rather play the Nets than the Heat in the playoffs.
By far. By far. Yeah. You don't want to run it.
When they signed Kyle Lowry, I remember talking about this at the beginning of the season. I thought the Heat would be not bad, but a fine regular season team, but just be awesome in the playoffs. Because if you look at who they have, those 3 obviously more built for the playoffs and regular season. And then like PJ Tucker was awesome last year in the playoffs. I think that team is just built. They're to some like 90s basketball, 90, 88 playoff scores when they get in the playoffs. Not a team you want to face. So they're legit. I totally agree.
All right. Sounds good. Now moving on. So we're going to talk MVP candidates and MVP futures as they stand. So right now we're just going to go over the top 5 odds. So Joelle Embiid, he's around -110, the clear cut favorite. You got Jokic at +330, Giannis at +550, DeMar DeRozan, go Bulls, +1200, and Ja Morant at +1300. So we'll go about 1 minute each here. We're lightning round thoughts. So look, I think it's obvious that Joel, he's got a clear-cut case. I understand, but, I never like paying, -110 odds on an MVP race. And who knows what happens? Some injuries, the narrative gets spun that now you have Harden. That's what you needed to kind of make that final push, blah, blah, blah. And I do, when it comes to MVP awards, I do think narratives play a role. And for that reason alone, because if you argue from statistics, obviously my selection won't have as much weight. But look, Ja Morant, okay, averaging 27.6 points per game on 49.8% field goal percentage. Okay, so it's not just pure junk volume. He's shooting at an amazing clip. 5.9 rebounds, 6.6 assists, 1.2 steals. And then you add that narrative piece.
Yeah.
He is dynamite. He is electric. Then you add in, I looked at their schedule. And, I was being fair, and maybe I'm being a little overly generous, but if they can keep this heater going and he's playing at this elite caliber level, I can see the Grizz ending up 57-25 and being the second seed. And I think if they can do that and they can overtake the Warriors, I'll make a case that the NBA wants to buy into a narrative and crown another superstar just to create more buzz. And I think there's a slim shot that Ja Morant could take this. So I am going to sprinkle. I'm going to sprinkle maybe $40, $50 on Ja Morant plus 100. So
I don't hate it. I mean, I agree with you regarding, like, you don't want to lay 110 or 120 minus 110, 120 odds on MVP, especially. I mean, if you look at this time, if you just rewind a literal year ago today, Embiid was the betting favorite to win MVP. Him and Jokic were 1 and 2, and then Embiid, he hurt his knee and he missed 3 weeks, and then he couldn't. And then so, and like, as much as I love Embiid, I think as of last night's game, he's officially played more games than he's missed. So I'm glad that he's been able to, since missing those first 2 years, stay relatively healthy. But he's always at risk for missing a couple weeks. Like, he really hasn't had a catastrophic injury since those 2 bone breaks, but every year he's had something. At the beginning of this year, he missed time with COVID, which obviously that's not injury prone. A ton of people had that happen. But I mean, as much as I love the guy, and I do, if I had to guess, I would say he probably wins the MVP. Like,
I agree.
The narrative is there. I mean, that team had no business being as good as they were this year until they got Harden. He's absolutely incredible. I believe he's still the leader in points per game.
He is. Yep. Still number 1. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he scored 30 points in 2 of the 3 games with Harden. He's shooting like 60 or 70% on passes directly from Harden. So I think his statistics are only going to get better, and the Sixers record will only get better. But I like you said, I just can't lay minus 120 or minus 110 odds. So actually, I do like the Ja Morant. I think you have a really good argument. I'm surprised you didn't go with DeMar DeRozan. That's who I thought you were going to say.
I mean, my heart says it, but I actually think there's more buzz, and I feel like, just because of his age, it's like, we want this guy to be the next. This is going to be the face going forward. So I'm thinking it from like that NBA business executive angle, like, and just kind of the buzz that was around like the All-Star game. I think the narrative piece, and the excitement and kind of like the future of the NBA, I think that narrative plays a little bit more favorably to Ja. So that's the only reason I kind of did that versus going with my heart with my Chicagoan inclination.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the Grizzlies are pretty locked in to at least the top 3 seed, as you said. Yeah. They're only half game back from the Warriors as of right now. They're 3 games ahead of the 4th place team, the Jazz, and they're just rolling. I mean, they won games. They kind of remind me of like your Bulls or the Heat, where like no matter who misses time, they just keep on winning. And I love the plucky young squad like the Grizzlies have. Like, I'm a huge NBA draft guy, huge NBA draft nerd, and they have so many just like draft Twitter crushes with Desmond Bane, with Jaren Jackson, just a ton of just good quality players, the Anthony Melton. So I could see Ja, but if I had to give one prediction that wasn't Embiid, I would actually feel like Jokic isn't getting enough love again because he won last year. I know he's a second favorite, but he's almost playing better, like having better stats than he had last year. The thing that against him is they're the 6th seed right now. And I think only one time in the Russell Westbrook year, which I mean, has not been looked upon fondly. History has not looked upon that fondly when Russell Westbrook won, that a team this low in the standings had a player win MVP. But I mean, they haven't had Jamal Murray all year. They haven't had Michael Porter for essentially all the year. His counting stats are better than last year. And so their record is 36-26. The Sixers are only 2 games better than the Nuggets. It's just a difference because of the West is higher than the East, but that's the only reason why the Sixers are the 3 seed versus the Nuggets. The Nuggets would be tied for the 5 seed, close to being the 4 seed if they were in the East. So I just think Jokic should get more love.
I agree. No, you're right. I mean, my only comments will be he's basically a walking triple-double, and I think the only things that go against it are the seeding and the record of his team and just voter fatigue. Like
Voter fatigue is huge.
Voter fatigue. That's it. Other than that, you're right. I mean, he's a monster. He's a beast and probably not getting enough recognition. So
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. My only comment is why I think it should be Embiid as of right now over Jokic is I think Jokic is probably better on offense than Embiid is, but Embiid is he's an A+ on defense and Jokic is just average. So I think the full scale of both of their games, I think Embiid has him just how much better he is on defense.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, so moving on to the last two topics. These are going to be more lightning round thought types of topics. So Elam Ending. So for those of you who are not familiar with that term, ELAM, Elam Endings. So basically, this was used in the All-Star game. It's actually used in a couple other, collegiate, like other leagues. And basically, it's to try to make the endings of games more exciting so we can get rid of all these dead balls, repeated fouls, excessive timeouts, and stoppages. Because basically the last 3-4 minutes of a game sometimes can take 30-40 minutes, right? So basically in an Elam ending, the way I can summarize it is once you're in the fourth quarter and you reach the first dead ball or kind of timeout under 4 minutes, with 4 minutes or less happening, you designate a target score based off the team that's in the lead. So the most common example is once you hit that dead ball spot around 4 minutes, you add 8 points, to where the current winning team score is, and that's the target score. And whoever reaches that first, that's the winner. And then you turn off the clock, and then you kind of take away the incentive to foul constantly because that's going to lead to free throws. And then the other team's going to hit that target score first. So it's to try to reduce all the stoppages, make it more frantic and hectic, and make it more exciting. So we saw an exciting ending in the All-Star game. So the question is, so we're going to do 30 seconds apiece. Do you want to see the Elam ending translate to the regular season, playoffs, finals? Yes, no, and why? So why don't you kick it off, Matt?
All right, 30 seconds. No, as far as transferring it to everything, but yes to the G League. Yes, if they do some sort of in-season tournament, and I think it should be tested. I think honestly, the biggest thing people wouldn't like about it is what are you going to do to how are you going to price totals? How are you going to take into betting on an over under? I think that's going to be a huge thing because at the end of the day, betting is going to take precedence over anything, right? So yeah, I think that needs to be figured out. But overall, I like it. It's how every pickup game is played. But I think it should start at lower levels before it goes up to the NBA.
Sounds good. So my 30 seconds will be, I'm going to hedge. I'm going to say yes to the regular season because we all know how the doldrums of the regular season, especially kind of this during the midway point can get. Some of these teams, we just want these games to end. We're just come on, stop dragging this on. So I'd say the NHL they got it right. It's these frantic, frenetic endings. That's what I want to see in the regular season. I don't know. Like you said, I'm a little reluctant to buy in for the playoffs and the finals when you want to use every bit of strategy possible and utilize those timeouts, et cetera. But I'm saying let's do it for the regular season for a season. Let's see how it goes. We as bettors and sports books will adapt. We'll focus on totals for the third quarters or something. Or
Totally fair.
My only comment would be we're going to get rid of buzzer beaters, right? So there's going to be no more buzzer beaters.
But every game would have a game-winning shot.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah. I actually like your idea better than mine. Yes for the regular season, no for the playoffs, at least for now. I think the regular season in the NBA is so boring. It's especially once the trade deadline's over, everybody's just going through the motions trying to get to the playoffs. So I think I love that. And regular season, 100%. Anything to make the regular season more exciting, I think is a good idea.
All right. And sounds good. And our last lightning round topic before our best bets, Joelle Embiid and Harden. So massive success early on, like we said at the beginning with both of our kind of opening tip hot takes. So is this sustainable or is this going to fizzle out? And your concerns or things you're encouraged by for the impact on the other players. So I'll start off really quick. So I think this is sustainable. I think they are going to make a legitimate push into the playoffs. I think Maxey is going to, I think, he is going to thrive being kind of more offensive oriented. I just got to shoot and score now and just get some buckets. I'm wondering what Tobias is going to do. He did a little better this past game, but I'm wondering what his role is going to be. Is he almost better suited to kind of stagger his minutes and lead the B unit and just kind of be the main guy for that B unit and just get his buckets? So I'm curious to see what'll happen to Tobias, but I think they're going to sustain this through the playoffs.
I totally agree. Maxey, if you look at his stats, it's, again, 3 games with Harden. He's been over 20 points all 3 games. He's hit 2, 3, and 4 3-pointers in consecutive games. So he's been shooting more. He's been absolutely incredible. And I think he's just like in awe of how much space is now on the floor just with having Harden there. I mean, Embiid, nobody's going to enjoy more than Embiid. But as far as Maxey, second-year player, yeah, I mean, he's been incredible. And then Tobias, I mean, don't even get me started on Tobias. Everyone, when you talk about Tobias, you have to mention how nice of a guy he is and how good he is for the team and the community, because there is nobody that is less fun to watch play for your basketball team than Tobias Harris. I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad player, and I'm not even talking about his contract. He is just frustrating to watch. It is like a chore. So he's probably going to struggle, but I think even if he struggles, I think having Embiid, Maxey, and now Embiid, Harden, and now Tyrese Maxey as quote unquote the third star, not star level, but whatever you want to call him, top 50 player. I think it's big time, and I think it's 100% sustainable. 100%.
Gotcha. Cool. All right, you degenerates. I know you've been waiting for this, so everyone's going to fast forward and get to this part, but it's the best bets for tonight's TNT nationally televised basketball game. So first game up, Memphis Grizzlies at the Boston Celtics. So each of us are going to come bring, our thoughts about a potential betting angle or best bet. So I'm going to start off for this game at least. So my bet that I'm going to take, so I'm actually betting this myself. So I'm not just promoting this. I'm going to bet this is I'm going to take a player prop here of Steven Adams over 10.5 rebounds. He's got a hit rate of hitting this 80% in the last 10 games. So 8 out of the last 10. Celtics are just middling. They're just 16th team ranking of 16th in rebounds allowed versus opponents. And you're getting minus 110. So pretty good odds for something that Steven Adams is hitting at a 80% clip. So that's going to be my player prop for this game. So what do you got cooking? Yeah.
Okay. I like that one a lot. I'm just looking straight at the spread, and I'm taking the Grizzlies plus 2.5, minus 105 on PointsBet. It's positive expected value play. And Jaylen Brown's out tonight, right? Isn't he out tonight?
Yeah,
so I think,
out. Yep.
Yeah, so I was surprised to see the Grizzlies still underdogs here, even though I know the Celtics have been hot and that it's in Boston. But this Grizzlies team, there's just something about them. And I think getting the 2.5 points, I thought about sprinkling money line, but thought about just playing it safe. But I like the Grizzlies plus 2.5.
I like it. I like it. Nationally televised game. I think Ja's going to show out. I think he's going to want to drive it down their throats. He's just going to drive to the rack over and over. Sounds good. All right. The late night game, Lakers at the Clippers. So you kick us off for this one. What's your best bet, or what's your bet for this game, Matt?
So I think this might be just a gambler's fallacy, but I'm taking the Lakers money line. I refuse to believe. So they've lost all three games to the Clippers so far. They just lost to them like 3 nights ago. Yep. But I just refuse to believe a LeBron-led team is going to let himself lose to the Clippers all 4 times without Paul George, without Kawhi Leonard. This Clippers team, it's amazing that they're doing as well as they are, missing their top 2 studs. But I guess I'm just feeling an underdog kind of night. I just give me the Lakers money line plus 125 on Caesars PointsBet and WinBet. Again, another positive expected value play on OddsJam.
Okay. So, we're going to be on opposite sides on this one.
Oh,
so
no.
and mine's not a positive EV. This is the good old eye test, which is not a good way to bet, but I'm going to go with the Clippers spread minus 2.5. I don't know what the line is at now. This was this morning. I took minus 2.5. And it was at minus 105 on DraftKings. So that's where I kind of took it at. So I think, as much as I don't think the Clippers are that great of a team, but defensively, they've been pretty solid. And they've kind of, just kind of like we've talked about some of these other kind of gritty teams, they've found a way where somebody steps up, whether it's Ibaka Zubac or you got, Reggie playing good one night. So I feel like they've managed to figure out someone's got to step up tonight, and they've just found ways to grind it out. And I'm going to roll with their consistency in grinding it out, as painful as they are to watch sometimes, versus a Lakers team that just looks like they're in shambles. So
fair.
We'll see. Let's see. I mean, the nice part is for this show, it's like a hedge. One of us is going to be right.
That's true.
Some of the followers out here are going to be happy.
Yeah, that's true. Someone will be right. Yeah, I mean, I just looked it up on like the OddsJam, their free bet or odds page. It's minus 2.5 now, minus 102 on FanDuel. So
even okay. So line went the other way. Yeah. Yeah,
actually better odds. But yeah, that's fair. And I'll give a shout out. I love Ty Lue. I think he's a phenomenal coach. So the Lakers are in shambles. Ty Lue is a good coach. I don't hate your pick. I just refuse to believe that they're going to lose all 4 games to the Clippers.
All right, so we'll definitely be DMing and tweeting each other later tonight. We'll see what happens. All right, so look, so this is our inaugural first episode, guys. So we hope you enjoyed kind of going through this with us. We want to start a mailbag segment. So for those of you guys out there, make sure you subscribe here to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter at OddsJam, visit oddsjam.com, and send us some comments, send us some feedback. You see the email there below. Send us ideas of questions, whether it's about sports betting in general, topics you want us to kind of talk about, give our hot takes, send us some stuff, and we'll feature you. We'll put your username if you want us to, and talk about it in future episodes. So to wrap things up, we end every show with what's cooking. So what's cooking with you this weekend, leading into the weekend, Matt?
So I'm here on the East Coast. We're supposed to get beautiful weather on Sunday. So what's cooking for me? I got 2 dogs. I got one I rescued, a COVID puppy. It's about 2 years old. I also adopted a chocolate lab over the summer. She's about 8 months or 9 months. Taking the pups for a hike on Sunday. Got a nice trail near my parents' house where I grew up. Taking the pups for a hike.
Nice.
What about you?
So yeah, it's weird. I think Saturday it's supposed to be here in the Chicago area. It's going to be like 60 something, and then Monday it's going to snow because that's how it works in Chicago.
Yes,
of
course.
I'm gonna try to take advantage of the nice random warm weather. I got a 6-year-old kid. So I'm gonna take my 6-year-old son Tyler out. We're gonna try to hit up some museums, pay some expensive $40 Chicago parking in order to go to these museums. And then try to make the most of the day, hang out in the city, eat some good food. So it's going to be a city day. So a rare city day for this boring suburbanite right here. So try to enjoy the rare warm weather in Chicago in March, basically.
I like it. Just got to give a shout out to one of my dogs, Jojo, named after Joelle Embiid. I'm taking full responsibility if he wins MVP this year.
So, all right. So thank you guys. So everyone who follows us, on Twitter, on YouTube, our social media accounts, we really genuinely, we appreciate your support. We love the interaction with you guys, all the comments you leave us, the DMs, the messages. We're happy to answer questions and try to be a helpful resource to you guys. So, I hope you enjoyed our first episode. So, look for us on all of your typical, podcast, apps, whether it's, iTunes podcast, Google podcast, Spotify. Look at all the major places. You'll be able to catch us there. You can replay this video podcast on YouTube. So follow us, like us, subscribe. We hope you guys enjoy this, and good luck on the best bets tonight. And we'll wrap it up next. We'll talk about how the bets went in our next episode. So until next time, guys, I hope you enjoyed our first episode of Sweat the Bet, brought to you by oddsjam.com.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.